everybody, and welcome to the podcast for this week. We're looking at the energies for the week ahead from today, Monday, the 25th of October to the 31st of October. And hi, Denny. How are you?
Hi there, Fee. I think it's been another quite a deep week for me. So there's just been a lot of walking, a lot of nature, a lot of time on the beach, and a lot of self-reflection happening here. I'm in the kind of the depths of it. We just passed through that full moon, and I felt all of that. So nothing more to share other than I'm just in the thick of it. What about you?
Yes, I can relate to all of that. That full moon last week was quite intense. Had a few sleepless nights or changing sleep patterns where I was up at ridiculous times in the morning, and then I'm really feeling those energies quite intensely last week. But yeah, that seems to have settled down a bit now, and I am feeling much more drawn inwards, which is kind of a lot of what I'm going to speak to today with the energies as well for this week. So I may as well dive into that and see where we get to. But looking at the week ahead through the numerology, we're moving into week 43 of 2021. So this makes this week a 7 week when we look at the numbers. And the energies, therefore, that will be influencing you most this week are the 4, 3, and 7 archetypes. So when we look at the energies of the 4 archetype, we can consider this as hardworking, determined, and really about your ability to find your way through the chaos around you. You know, it's a very hard working number, the 4. And the 3 archetype emphasizes communication, the power of your words, which is really funny because we've just been talking about my voice on the podcast and how it's naturally lower than yours. So I'm trying very hard today to make it sound a bit louder. But this energy is all about speaking out, speaking your truth, which is very much the energy, of course, that we're sitting in at the moment. And then the 7 archetype really is about bringing you into a deeper connection with your mind and your intellect, but also with your intuition and the mystical side of yourself. It's got these 2 beautiful sides to it, the 7. So it very much feels as if the week ahead is going to be one in which you may be challenged to change your thoughts or the way in which you communicate with yourself and others. And you may hear some noise in the background. Sorry about that. I've got some work going on in the background, but this is really a week where you might receive an invitation to kind of sit intuitively with what you're listening to and who you're listening to at this time, to really feel into the truth of what you're hearing. And then, of course, find your own truth within that so that you can hold your truth more potently before you dive into deeper connection with others. So 7 energy really invites you to look at the 2 extremes of the continuum between, say, logic and intellect and psychic and intuitive, and then find your place of truth within that or balance that within yourself. So this is a theme that's going to run through this week for us all. 7 deepens your energy deepens your ability to learn. And so this is a week, I feel, when you are going to grow intellectually or really shift something that has maybe been holding you back at the mental body level. And that could be, of course, outdated beliefs or thoughts that really no longer represent the truth of who you are now or who you are becoming. 7 energy really pushes you to look at things more deeply. It kind of guides you or entices you into excavating more deeply into the depths of something rather than playing around on the surface of it. So it really wants to go to the root cause of issues. So that may drive you down the path of unearthing something that is no longer true for you. And we may even see this play out in the world around us as well next week, because we're also sitting in 3 energy this week. And that means that you'll be drawn to notice words, because 3 is a very a communicative number. It's all about the words, the power of words. And so you'll be drawn to look at that in a really conscious way, I think, this week, and then dive into those words to find the truth so that you can then change your own thoughts and beliefs. We're progressing and evolving in a really conscious way at the moment. So, we cannot get to where we really want to go without changing our thoughts and beliefs. That's one of the things that we have to do to get where we want to go. So this is definitely a week when you will be challenged with this. And so your mind, I think, will be quite active as you work through the changes that are guiding you into inner alignment. And this is also an energy that can bring up your most primal fears. So you may notice that your deepest fears start to surface as you are called to release them. However, 7 is a very spiritual number, and it guides you deep within for your answers. It allows your masculine mind to work more in flow with your feminine intuition to create that deeper alignment. So if you are feeling afraid at this time, if your fears are surfacing, that's okay. It's natural to feel fear when, so much is changing and there's so much unknown in the world at the moment. And this can really sort of connect us into those deep fears that we hold. Fear is multi-layered, and primal fears are really all about our survival. So that energy is held very much in the collective at the moment. So you're obviously picking up on that energy as well as your own personal fears at this time. But when you deepen your understanding of your fears, that's really when you can evolve and release them, as you realize that they're often unfounded and are usually stories that your mind has created. So this is a week, really, I feel, to evolve at that level and really create deeper inner alignment as you let go of that which no longer supports where you're heading. So I think the key words for week 43 are introspection, analysis, and also intention. It's about looking within for your answers. It's about balance between your masculine mind and your feminine heart. It's also about being clear about your intention for how you want your life to look in the future, so that everything that is misaligned to that can then surface to be looked at this week. Well, no, some of the things, not everything, of course, that would maybe be a bit overwhelming, but good questions to ask yourself, I think, this week are: what is truly behind my actions at the moment? And how do I really want to live my life moving forwards? I think they're both good questions to go into inner inquiry with this week, and see then what surfaces from those 2 forms of looking deep within yourself. So yeah, that's the numbers for this week, Denny.
Well, that's so interesting, Fee. And the reason why it is that I leave the numbers to you, but there was one number that was coming up a lot on the chart for me today, and it was the number 7. And I've got it written down. Can I ask Fee about the number 7 and what that's bringing? Because there was by the end of the week, we've got Kali and Saturn sitting at number 7 in Aquarius, squaring the sun at number 7 in Scorpio. And so the energy of that, I was wondering, is this something? I wasn't going to speak to it because then other stuff came up, but that kind of, as soon as you said 7, my notes went straight to that point. So I will bring that up when I'm talking a bit later, but I'm really I'm going to re-listen to this so I can pick up all that stuff about the 7 again. And that truth thing that you were speaking to, which I know has come up a lot, but as you know, we've you've put the challenge out to me to do a podcast on my truth. And I keep saying to you that's, I've been sitting in that place for so much, but there was something that you said about aligning that heart and head place. And I think that was part of the first challenge that I had, which was if I look at truth, and I've been trying to distill this place of truth. And eventually I got to, truth is to me provable and scientific, and anything else is a belief. And then I went to, okay, I'm right on that kind of truth. And then I went to, but what if I drop down into my heart? What's my truth from that place? And that brings a whole different level and depth to truth. So there's head truth and then there's heart truth, which are two different things. I'm not going to go into mine now, but just that piece for me was so interesting.
Yeah, and I think that's the invitation this week, is to balance those two more consciously, because neither one is right or better than the other. They're both part of your truth, but the key to working with them is finding the balance between the two, which of course is, where we're all heading, I think, with that truth energy.
Okay, so shall I dive into a little bit of mine now and then see where that takes us?
Yes, please.
So I'm going to start with the beginning of the week, and that is the sun entering Scorpio. Actually happened yesterday, but we're just sitting in that very, very beginning of Scorpio. And as the week ends, Mars enters Scorpio. So I think that the Scorpio energy is very strong this week. And so I was just going to dive a little bit sort of further into what that means. And Scorpio is such an interesting sign. When I feel into Scorpio, I feel this depth and this power and this passion, which I would normally feel about a fire sign, but Scorpio's a water sign. So it's fixed water. There's this intensity and this depth about Scorpio, but it also has this emotional depth to it and emotional power to it, which is makes it one of the most interesting signs in the zodiac. It is the sign of birth and death, of sex and transformation. It's ruled by Pluto. So Pluto is the god of the underworld. So that brings all those places that are hidden to the surface. So we're entering this, our identity, the sun is moving into this place of depth within, of the hidden places within, and are asking us to look at them. It's also the place of investments and inheritance and property. It's, I guess, in a way, a place of heirlooms, or what we bring in with us that we treasure. I'm not going to bring in my card because I'm fascinated with where my card often leads me, and how it's almost like this puzzle that I try and work out as I'm looking into the cosmos. And this week I pulled the medallion card, which it's one of the cards I pull the most. And I always get a bit disappointed when I pull it, because I think it's a physical thing, and I don't put much weight on it. But I thought, okay, we're in Scorpio. Let's look at the depths in the medallion. And I reached this place of instantly when I think of a medallion, it asks you to look at something some object that you hold dear to you. And when I think of that, I think of my mum and dad's wedding ring. So when my mum passed on, my father had already passed, and I inherited her wedding ring, which is engraved with the date and with my dad and mum's names. It's really important to me. It feels like one of my possessions that I love the most. So it asks me to look at that place and what importance that is, and what about that am I willing to take on with me, and what am I willing to let go of. When I first pulled the medallion card, I decided it was time, because I'd worn my mum's wedding ring since she passed, to take it off, and maybe it was time to just have a break from that energy. And that I pulled it today, I just thought, okay, let's look even deeper in it. And I realized that when not just objects hold those, the inheritance that we get from our families. There's so much in what is passed on, traditions and expectations and the type of life you will lead. And so with the identity, the sun moving into Scorpio, I think that, and the medallion looking at traditions or things that we hold dear that have been passed down to us, it's time to look at what have you brought in with you that comes from your ancestry, comes from your lineage, that maybe it's time to just sit in the place of what do I want to let go of and what do I want to take on, and what do I want to pass on to my children, because this is a place of, we're at a place of, we can keep going the way we have, or we can really undo, unbecome, so that the future generations can reimagine the earth in a different way. This feels really heavy, and I want to get these words right. I just think we're on this place of finding that within. If we find it within, then it's going to come to us on the outside. And we're in this place on the earth where we can keep going the way that we always have, or we can really dive into, where am I prepared to change? What am I prepared to let go of? That feels like maybe I'm going to let go of a part of myself that I don't necessarily want to, because that wedding ring to me holds so much. To put that aside was quite hard for me to do. And then I think of, what are those things that I hold on to because they mean I belong to a lineage, they mean I belong to a family, but I'm not being asked to look at, what can I let go of so that it changes the way that my lineage moves forward. I reached a different depth of that, which is not surprising given that we're going into Scorpio, of what really can I let go of, that may mean I don't belong in the same way to the family, my family of origin. And I know that sounds serious, but everything's pointing at this to me at the moment. So I wonder if it's a place that we're all asked to look at, what do we just hold on to because it feels comfortable and it feels like we belong, but it's time to really question, what am I willing to let go of so that the future generations don't go through the same things that we're going through? I'm just going to pass back to you now so I can make sure that I'm getting everything out that I need to, because it feels important.
I love that. And I love that reflection. I love the synchronicity as well between the numbers and that deep dive. I mean, this week does feel like a week for diving deep, excavating and going in. But that self-identity piece, I think, is massive, because that's what we're recreating for ourselves at the moment, who we are based on who we are now, not who we were or where we've come from, which is all valid and relevant to our experience, but who we are now and who we want to be moving forward. So yes, I think that is a big piece, but I think it's also such an exciting piece of the journey ahead, because we actually get to create that through the letting go of what we no longer want to keep carrying forward and pass on, particularly as women, to our daughters and that and our granddaughters and that lineage there. So yes, big questions, and I love them, and I'm looking forward to kind of sinking into those myself. And I pulled the Emperor card, which I never seem to get it right in the screen, but that's what it looks like, from the shamanic tarot deck. And, this actually really seemed to speak to the energies that we're sitting in, but it also really speaks to the message that I'm going to share with you from the Akasha. So it was really interesting to have that sort of reflected back to me when I went into the Akashic records and then chose the card afterwards and thought, oh yes, these are two very aligned supports for the week ahead. But, everything that we're being forced to change in this year, a 5-year, which is all about change, is creating the new foundation from which we will start to grow our new way of life. So this card really affirms that kind of sense of strong foundations that we're building now. Everything that you're going through now, everything that rises for you now, creates another piece of that new foundation that you're building, which really speaks to what you were just talking about, Denny. So this card is all about, I think, solidity and structure, and being a rock for that support for the future that we need. So it felt really beautiful and aligned to what we're going to go through this week. So my message from the Akasha, I'll just dive into that, was really beautiful as well, and aligned to those energies that we've both been speaking to, I think, and also to this card that I pulled. So the message that I got this week was that this part of your journey may feel long and tedious, and it's okay to feel weary and fatigued by the constant inner changes that are taking place. It is the perfect time to remind yourself that you are building something new. This is something that you have been imagining in your mind for a very long time, maybe even lifetimes. You are now creating the structure for a completely new way of life that will look very different to the old one that you have left behind. You are the laborer now, laying your foundations brick by brick, piece by piece, so that your new way of living is sustainable and long lasting. And that was my message this week from the Akasha.
Which works perfectly to the piece that I knew I needed to also bring in. And that is the doing part of it, because as well as the sun moving into Scorpio, straight after the sun or during this week, Mars does. So the sun and our identity, that's the place of looking at all those things of what do I want to continue with? What have I brought in with me, and what am I willing to let go of now, so I can reimagine myself and my identity in this future? Then Mars moves in and says, what are you going to do with it? Now that you've got that, now it's a action. What are we going to do with that power, with that drive? And with Mars moving into Scorpio, it's a place that Mars sits really happily because it's a doing sign. It's okay, this is where the rubber hits the road. This is where we build those new foundations. So Fee, I love how aligned that is. And I come back to that number 7 now, because the sun will square Saturn. Kali and Saturn are at 7 degrees, or will be by the end of the week, of Capricorn, which is the foundations, the structure. And so our identity is looking at the structure and saying, is that, I want to build this from this new reimagined self. And then straight after that, Mars hits the square with Saturn and says, what am I going to do to make sure that that when I do rebuild, I do it with all of those ideals, my new self, building from that kind of place. But it's a doing. What do I do now? Not just where do I sit at this? With Mars there, it's very much a how do I move forward in a different way? Are we going to keep living the way that we've always lived? And what are those steps to living a different life? Like, I know that we can talk about this a lot, and then it's like, what actually do we do differently every day? And I think it's a question that we need to ask ourselves every day. How do I step into the world today from this new place? And how do I meet the world and build a life every day, asking myself that question? Am I coming at my life from from the old place, or am I building a new place? And I don't think that that's something that happens overnight. I think it's got to be this conscious thought every day. Am I just living the life that I did before COVID, before lockdown? Am I trying to rebuild the old life that I did? How can I move forward in a different way to build a new way of being? I think it's the question of the times. And I think it's a question we need to all ask ourselves. How can we step up? How can we create this new world? We all want it. We all talk about it, but how do we physically do it now? And I think this week, we're going to start actually needing to put a little bit of action behind that new imagined place that we all want to live in.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that 4 number that we've been speaking about, the 4 energy, is all about foundations, hard work, building something. And we're sitting in, this is week 43, we're in a 10-week cycle of that 4 energy. So that energy is weaving its way through, well, the next 7 weeks for us anyway, and it's been building since 3 weeks ago. So this energy is guiding us into that action of building foundations and creating foundations. And what we're being asked to do at the moment is do that internally, do that for ourselves first before we take it out into the world and into the collective to rebuild the world that we want to look at. So we've got to become really clear, first of all, about our piece in that, and then we can come together and create what we're moving into next.
Yeah. And from the point of view of moving into Scorpio, that is the place within and the transformation that can happen within. And I think of as below, so above, as above, so below, or as within, so without. So if we make those changes within, then the changes will start showing up in your life anyway, because there's nothing different between what happens in and what you see on the outside. In fact, I think it's be the change, and then you'll see the change. The two go hand in hand.
Yeah. I like that. Be the change, and then you'll see the change. I might steal that one. That's going to pop up in my daily soul thing, I'm sure.
Excellent. I love that. Well, that's, it feels like a deep week, but God, it feels good though. It actually feels like we're stepping into this new place, and it just gives me so much hope, actually.
Yeah, well, I'm a 4 life path. So for me, this is the energy I feel really comfortable in. And I'm a foundation builder. I like to do everything with a really strong foundation. So I can't, I'm sure anybody out there who's a 4 life path, you'll be really kind of in your element with this energy at the moment. But it can feel very uncomfortable for a lot of people too. But like you, I think it's exciting.
Amphi, before we go, it just feels like now's the time to start talking about the community that we're building, because on the basis of building a new way, we're in the midst of building a new community for the other world. And it's not there yet, but I'm so excited. I have so much energy behind this community, and bringing together people to talk about these things, and to learn and to transform together, and to keep each other on path by having these conversations. I think there's nothing more powerful than a group that have that intention, that can really bring up things for us to actually bring into action and bring into our everyday lives. So this place of the Other World Collective, there's going to be stuff that we're going to put up out about this in the next couple of weeks. So if you're interested, either get in contact with us, or have a look, get on our mailing list, because we will be sending information out about it. But I'm excited about it. I can't wait to dive in.
Yeah, me too. I mean, it's a new way of working. It's a new way of gathering together in groups, in circle together, which I really love. It feels very now and of the moment. And, and I think, well, you and I both love to work in circle. We love to work in groups of women. And I think that at this time, we're really seeking ways to find kind of a way to do that when we're often not able to meet physically, but can still meet and gather in a space that feels really supportive and loving, and you feel held in it. So yes, both very excited about this new offering that will be out shortly.
And I also love the fact that it isn't on Facebook, it's not on WhatsApp, it's not on Insta. It's a totally new platform that feels really clean and a really held private container. That piece I'm excited about almost more than anything else.
Yeah, I mean, I think you and I have both felt a sort of stickiness or uncomfortableness with the normal social media outlets that we've been using over the past few years. And so it is nice to have something different to focus our energy on, which actually feels really aligned to the way that we work as well, which is beautiful.
So if you've enjoyed the weekly reading, and if you would like to see more of the weekly reading, it always feels a bit sticky for us to bring this up, but it would really help us if you followed or subscribed or left a comment or asked a question. That helps this go into go to more people. And it's something that we've struggled with actually putting at the end of the podcast, but we've decided that we want to serve more, and that's the way it works on these platforms.
Yeah, I think the desire to be of service to more people at this time, to help more people or to give some people an insight into the week ahead, has become greater than the uncomfortableness of actually speaking to it in the way we are now. So we're diving in, and anything that you do along those lines, following us, commenting, sharing, all of those things help to get that information out to people to help them. So we're very grateful if you can do that. That would be great.